Within the gloomy walls of a factory in China, dark secrets lurk in plain sight. Exhausted workers, with blank stares, move like machines, trapped in an endless cycle of exploitation and despair. Long hours, no breaks, and inhumane conditions turn the promise of a job into a never-ending nightmare. What really happens inside these walls? Who are the people whose lives are being sacrificed so that we can have our devices? Day after day, the pressure increases. Production can never stop, and the anonymous faces behind every iPhone suffer in silence. Victims of physical and mental abuse, these workers face a brutal reality that rarely comes to light. What doesn't Apple and other big companies want you to know about the true cost of modern technology? What is the price of the convenience we pay for the pain of others? Stories of courage and suffering emerge, revealing a ruthless system that treats human beings as expendables. The voices of those who dare to speak out challenge the silence imposed by oppression. How is it possible that, in the 21st century, such inhumane practices still exist? The anguish of these workers is a cry for justice, an urgent call for something to change. What can we do to end this exploitation and bring dignity back to these forgotten workers? Topic 1. The mysterious location. The iPhone factory located in China is a real enigma to many. Situated in a dense industrial region, this factory remains hidden from public view, shrouded in mystery. The strategic location and isolation have fueled numerous conspiracy theories, with many believing that the obscurity is intentional to hide unethical practices. The difficulty of access and the lack of detailed information about the place further increase the interest and curiosity of the public. This mystery only deepens when we consider the extreme measures taken to keep the factory out of the spotlight. Workers are recruited from remote regions and often kept in confined conditions, with no communication with the outside world. Security at the site is tight, with guards constantly patrolling to ensure that no information leaks out. This level of secrecy is rare and arouses significant angst about what really goes on behind the closed gates. The factory operates almost like a closed city, where everything is monitored and controlled. Workers are rarely allowed to leave, and when they do, they are escorted. This claustrophobic and isolated environment creates a scenario of despair and dehumanization, leading many to question the human cost of producing technological devices that millions of people use daily. Curiosity about what is being hidden and the reality of workers trapped in this system has the public clamoring for more transparency and change. Topic 2. Alarming working conditions. The working conditions inside the factory are a grim reflection of the worst labor practices. Workers are subjected to exhausting workdays, often exceeding 12 hours a day, without adequate rest. The pressure to meet unrealistic production targets leads many to work to exhaustion, resulting in a host of health problems. Reports from workers describe hot environments, without adequate ventilation and with constant artificial lighting, creating an oppressive and dehumanizing atmosphere. The inhumane treatment goes beyond long hours. There are reports of verbal and physical abuse by supervisors, who use fear as a tool to maintain productivity. Workers, many of whom are migrants in search of a better life, find themselves trapped in a cycle of exploitation with no visible way out. The constant threat of losing their jobs, combined with the need to provide for their families, forces them to endure unbearable conditions. Not only do these practices violate basic human rights, but they also reveal an alarming indifference on the part of corporations that benefit from cheap labor. The lack of oversight and the complacency of local authorities allow such conditions to persist, creating a scenario of desperation and exploitation that seems endless. The drama of these circumstances arouses a deep sense of injustice and the urgent need for reform and global action. Topic 3. The impact on workers' health. The devastating effects of working conditions on the health of employees are alarming. Physically, many workers suffer from chronic ailments such as back pain, breathing problems, and extreme exhaustion due to a lack of proper breaks and unsanitary conditions. Prolonged exposure to noisy and hot environments contributes to the rapid deterioration of the physical health of workers, who often lack access to adequate medical care. In addition to the physical problems, the psychological impact of working conditions is equally disturbing. Workers report high levels of stress, anxiety, and depression, exacerbated by the constant pressure to meet goals and the threat of punishment. The feeling of helplessness and lack of emotional support create an environment of despair, where many end up succumbing to mental exhaustion. Cases of suicide are not uncommon, painting a bleak picture of the reality faced within these walls. The combination of physical and mental problems creates a vicious cycle of suffering. The lack of adequate intervention and the denial of more humane working conditions show a complete devaluation of workers' lives. Not only does this generate deep distress among those directly affected, but it also draws global attention to the urgent need for reform and greater corporate responsibility. The health of workers, being sacrificed for the sake of production, is an issue that can no longer be ignored. Topic 4. Production and technology secrets. The factory in question is a fascinating example of technological advancements hidden beneath oppressive practices. The production of iPhones involves cutting-edge techniques and highly automated processes, which are often kept strictly secret. Workers, despite operating advanced technologies, have little or no knowledge about the end product or the importance of their tasks, increasing the sense of alienation and dehumanization. Technological sophistication contrasts sharply with primitive working conditions. State-of-the-art machines and automated production systems coexist with the harsh exploitation of workers, creating a disturbing paradox. While the outside world sees Apple as an icon of innovation and progress, the workers inside the factory live a diametrically opposite reality, where they are treated like disposable parts in a giant cog. This extreme contrast raises significant ethical questions about the cost of innovation. The efficient and rapid production of devices, highly desired by the global market, is fueled by human exploitation and indifference to workers' rights. The revelation of these production secrets not only arouses curiosity, but also a call to action to reassess industrial practices and ensure that technology does not advance at the expense of human dignity. Topic 5. The role of large companies. Large corporations, especially Apple, play a crucial role in perpetuating conditions within this factory. Despite public promises of social responsibility and improvements in working conditions, the reality on the ground often tells a different story. Companies seek to maximize profits and efficiency, often at the expense of workers at the bottom of the production chain. The ethical responsibility of large companies in relation to working conditions is a widely debated topic. Many critics argue that Apple and other similar companies have the resources and influence to implement significant changes, but choose to prioritize profits. The lack of transparency and evasive responses to accusations of labor abuses only add to the public's frustration and distrust. The involvement of big business in this shady factory in China is a reflection of a larger systemic failure. Reliance on cheap labor in developing countries allows these practices to continue, with little intervention from local or international governments. This asymmetrical power dynamic highlights the need for a more rigorous and ethical approach on the part of corporations, to ensure that the pursuit of profit does not outweigh the value of human life. Topic 6. The drama of documentaries and secret reports. Documentaries and secret reports have played a vital role in exposing conditions inside the plant. Investigative journalists and human rights activists have infiltrated the factory, risking their lives to reveal the truth to the world. These courageous efforts have resulted in powerful documentaries that capture the brutal reality faced by workers, shedding new light on the factory's obscurity. The narratives presented in these documentaries are deeply disturbing and full of drama. Images of exhausted workers, unsanitary environments, and reports of physical and mental abuse create a sense of urgency and outrage. The courage of those who have gone undercover to document these conditions is impressive, but it also highlights the risk and personal sacrifice required to reveal these dark truths. These documentaries and reports have the power to mobilize public opinion and force change. The anguish and exploitation captured on film elicits a strong emotional response, pressuring corporations and governments to act. The impact of these visual accounts is undeniable, showing that transparency and awareness are powerful tools in the fight against labor exploitation. The curiosity aroused by these revelations is a crucial step in the transformation of industrial practices. Topic 7. Global reactions and protests. The exposure of working conditions at the iPhone factory in China has sparked a wave of global backlash and protests. Human rights organizations, activists, and consumers around the world have mobilized to demand better working conditions and greater transparency from the companies involved. Protests in front of corporate headquarters, social media campaigns, and petitions have been powerful tools to push for change. These international reactions are not only symbolic, but also practical, having a real impact on corporate policies. Public pressure has led some companies to reevaluate their practices and implement more rigorous audits. However, many of these actions are seen as superficial and insufficient, adding to the frustration and determination of activists to continue the struggle. Global engagement on this topic shows the public's growing awareness and sensitivity to issues of labor exploitation. Solidarity between consumers and workers reveals a global movement for justice and dignity at work. The ongoing reactions and protests highlight the importance of staying focused and pressing, ensuring that the changes needed are not just empty promises, but concrete and sustainable improvements. Topic 8. Hope for the future. Despite the bleak conditions and exploitative practices, there are signs of hope and potential for a brighter future. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and workers' rights groups have stepped up their efforts to improve conditions in factories. Support programs and initiatives to provide education and training to workers are important steps in empowering and protecting the most vulnerable. In addition to NGOs, some companies have shown a genuine commitment to reforming their practices. The introduction of new codes of conduct, independent audits, and transparency initiatives are examples of efforts to create a fairer and safer working environment. These actions, while still insufficient, represent a move in the right direction and show that public pressure can result in positive change. The future of workers at the iPhone factory in China depends on the continuation of these efforts and the implementation of robust and effective policies. Collaboration between governments, businesses, and civil society is crucial to ensure that promises of improvements translate into tangible realities. Hope lies in the persistence and continued commitment of all involved to promoting dignity and human rights in the workplace. The fight against exploitation in China's iPhone factory is far from over. Every device that comes into our hands carries with it the pain and suffering of invisible workers, whose voices need to be heard. How many more will need to suffer before anything changes? What are we willing to do to ensure that these abuses do not go unpunished? Every small action, every conscious consumption decision can make a huge difference. Reporting, sharing, and demanding transparency are crucial steps to expose the hidden reality behind technological production. How can we push large corporations to adopt more humane practices? How long will we allow the pursuit of profit to come at the expense of human dignity? The journey to end this exploitation requires constant vigilance and a steadfast commitment to justice. The stories of workers' suffering and resistance cannot be forgotten. What will be our role in building a fairer and more ethical future? What else can be revealed about these shady factories? Is the answer in our hands, ready to make a difference?